The East and West Coast feud in the hip hop and rap industry of the 1980s and 1990s was sort of embodied by two very successful artists. On the East Coast side of this rift, you had the notorious B.I.G., Biggie Smalls. And on the West Coast, you had Tupac. Now, these two men had grown up in the same neighborhood, they were previously friends, but there was a tension in the music industry between these two different groups, where there were a lot of artists on the East Coast that worked through a couple very specific record labels, and a similar situation on the West Coast, both of which created strong competition for the other. And not only did they use this competition to challenge and steal the business of their competitor, but it also became a personal grudge match and sort of an ego contest where Biggie was interviewed talking about Tupac and the tension that had developed. And I quote, Biggie said, I'll just go ahead and I'll be making my music, and Tupac, he'll be making whatever he makes. From that quote, it almost emphasizes that Tupac was not making music. So there were a lot of these personal jabs, and it escalated to the point where Tupac claimed to have relations with Biggie's wife. Now, it progressed, and there was a shooting of Tupac's recording studio. He was shot, and after about 6 days, he ended up dying. And this is around 1995, and this whole feud was mainly played out between 1995 and 1997. So it was in that short window of those 2 years. And after that, there was a lot of accusation that Biggie Smalls and his corresponding record label were involved in the hit. And ultimately, this culminated with a drive-by shooting of Biggie's SUV as he was leaving a music event, a showcase. Killed him. So both of these artists lost their lives. And the prompt asks, what could we learn from this? What could we not learn from this? This is a grudge match that turned violent. That is ultimately the worst possible case you can have to any dispute. There's a saying that's common among very wealthy and very successful individuals. There becomes a point where money kind of loses its effectiveness, where the drive for more money gives diminishing returns, and you no longer can get more enjoyment out of a bigger paycheck. But what the wealthy will usually say at that point is money is simply a way to keep score. It's a way of keeping score of who's better at the game, respectively, whatever that is. And these two artists had this competition. They had the resources and the money. They could have peacefully competed in the game of business, advanced music considerably with their talents. If they had been around for another 5 years, let alone a decade, they could have changed the face of modern music, even more than they did. They could have come together on collaborations with emerging technologies at the start of the century. And right now, we could still be listening to their songs at the top of the Billboard records. But that is not how it played out. Whether it's through their prior experiences and just how they grew up learning to handle their issues. Biggie was selling drugs by 13, aggravated assault, things of that nature. So there was this baseline of violence. But they could have resorted to a peaceful competition where it would have resulted in nothing more than a counting of points at the end of the day, as opposed to the counting of bullets.